there we are. And yeah, have fun. Thank you very much again for everyone for attending. And I'm excited to have some discussion about graduate studies. All yours, Maggie and Jamelyn.
Awesome. Thank you, Brianna.
Yeah, thank you, Brianna. Do you want to start or do you want me to start, Jamelyn?
You go for it.
Okay. So my name is Maggie. I am a second year full-time NP student, graduating in May. I've been a nurse since 2015. I graduated from St. X, my undergrad in 2015. I've worked in both ICU and long-term care, and have now been making kind of a transition into NP. So this will be a pretty informal discussion. You guys can stop and ask questions at any time, and we'll try to answer them or find an answer for you. And yeah, Jamelyn, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Jamelyn. I am just finishing up my first semester of NP studies at Dalhousie University. I graduated from my undergrad in 2016, have been working as an RN in various med-surg, emerge, most recently some community health up north. And yeah, now I'm back in Nova Scotia and doing NP. I think just before we get going too far here, we'll make the acknowledgement that where we work, live, and study is in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. We are all treaty people, and we promote and advocate for safe spaces amongst all students and persons. So we've introduced ourselves. I don't know, do we have too many people to kind of get a brief intro? I know Brianna had said kind of when we first got on that there might be some UPEI students that have joined us. So do you think that's appropriate to open up, just get a brief introduction of who we're chatting with?
Yeah, and what you're kind of interested in, what kind of graduate stream you're looking for some information about would be helpful as well.
Is there anybody who wants to speak up?
You don't have to turn your camera. Go.
I'm a fourth year student at UPEI. I just kind of wanted some general information. I've been looking into the NP program just for future couple of years, but thought it was a good opportunity to see what I could figure out.
Wonderful. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm Lane. I'm just looking on my last year at Dow. My interest in graduate is kind of more related to like public health nursing and community health.
Perfect. Anyone else here want to share what their hopes are for this?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just walking home. My name is Megan. I'm also in my last year of nursing at Dalhousie, and I'm interested in women's health and maternity.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right.
I can go too. My name is Ellie, and I actually just moved here from the States a few months ago because my husband's attending dental school at Dow. And I've been a peds nurse for over a year, waiting for my license to come through. And I'm working at the IWK, but I'm just wanting to learn more about the grad programs offered at Dow.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Ellie. Hopefully we can answer some questions for you. All right. Anyone else want to let us know a little bit about yourself?
My name is Martine. I'm in my third last semester at Dalhousie, and I'm just here to listen and get more knowledge because I think I want to do something beyond RN, but not really sure what that is yet. So here to find out.
Well, you're in the right place, hopefully.
My name is Anna. I'm in my last year at Dalhousie. I'm just looking to get some more information as well.
Perfect.
My name is Wendy. I'm the fourth year nurse student in UPI. I'm still come here to give more information. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us. I think that's almost everybody, is it? All right.
Awesome. Thanks for coming, guys.
Perfect.
We will do our best to answer your questions. So good mix of DAL and UPEI students. So we can speak to the DAL program. So we have kind of two routes that you can go with the master's programs focused in nursing studies. So there's the master's in nursing stream, and then there's the master's of science in nursing, and that it would be more your research thesis based. So we our thesis rep, who's also on the grad committee with us, DGNS, she wasn't able to make it, but Brianna said that she might be able to answer some of your questions. She's finishing up her PhD right now. And then Maggie and I can speak to the nurse practitioner stream of the master's in nursing program. So I guess we'll just start maybe with the master's in nursing program specifically. So there is the professional stream. It's 30 credit hours. You're not really getting into clinicals with that, and you're looking at going into more managerial administration positions with the professional stream. And then there's the nurse practitioner stream, and that's 36 credit hours, and that's where you're going to be getting into clinicals. Any input on the Masters of Science, the thesis stream there, Brianna?
Hi there, sorry. Yeah, so with the Masters of Science in Nursing, it is much more kind of research focused and has that that thesis, big, sometimes daunting, sometimes very welcomed thesis focus to it. What usually happens, it's been a bit since I've done it now, but generally the first year there is a lot of coursework that's involved, really getting to understand nursing philosophy, as well as different methodologies like qualitative research, quantitative research, which all goes into helping build your proposal, for the research project that you'll conduct as a part of your thesis. And then that second year really moves into mostly focus on, actually getting to conduct the research project and work towards building that thesis and defending. It's kind of it in a nutshell.
Thanks, Brianna.
So I did include overlapping application considerations for both programs. So right now they're looking for 2 faculty references and 1 professional reference. So I'll just share my personal experience with that specifically. I was 5 years out of I was actually 6 years out of having done my undergrad by the time that I was applying and accepted to my master's program. And I didn't really have any contacts with any faculty. So I was able to provide 2 professional references. And if anything comes up like that in your application, they're really good at DAL anyway, I can speak to just be forward with that. So I reached out to the graduate coordinator and said that I was able to come up with 1 faculty reference, and this was why I really hadn't lived in Nova Scotia for much time after doing my undergrad. So I was able to provide 2 professional references instead. The other thing that is currently part of the application form is this supplemental application form that they want you to complete. And in that form, they're asking for practice area interest. And honestly, the more that they know about you, the more that they want to support you in your learning. So short and long-term goals. So if I think one of you had said like public health and community health, what your goals would be in the community. I know at Dal, they're really trying to encourage primary care, right? So as nurse practitioners, we're going to come out and we're wanting to be taking people off of the needs of family practice list. So you might be, if that's the route you're going to, you can target your goals to that. And then right now, and I'm just jumping to the next point, right now they have a minimum of 2 years full-time RN clinical experience for the nurse practitioner stream applicants. And so for that application, they want you to address a practice issue that has come up for you and has impacted your practice and kind of caused some reflection and maybe evolved your practice moving forward from that clinical encounter. So that's a little blurb that I had. Did you have anything you wanted to add there, Maggie?
No, that's good. I'm trying to think back of what I wrote about and I can't remember.
Really? I actually used it. So I guess we could talk about kind of the course load of the nurse practitioner stream. So to start with, it is very, so like right now I'm in my first semester and I'm doing the full-time stream. Maggie, you're doing?
Yeah, full-time
stream as well. So that's 2 years. And so the full-time stream, I've started with pathophysiology, advanced health assessment, and philosophy. So that same practice issue that I wrote about in my application form, I'm writing about in philosophy. So
and it's important. So for nurse practitioner program, you can do it full-time or part-time. So full-time is over 2 years, or you can do it part-time over 3, 4, or 5 years. And it just means your courses are spaced out a bit more. And there's a lot of people that start full-time and then drop down to a part-time when they realize how much work it is or financial reasons and things like that. And there's also I think they're still offering it, the incentive program offered by Nova Scotia Health for the nurse practitioner program. So Nova Scotia Health will pay your salary. Yeah, your RN salary for the 2 years that you're in school. With the expectation that number one, you work during your summer break, your 2 months of summer or whatever it ends up being. And then you owe them 5 years in return as an NP for them paying your full-time salary for 2 years. And when you apply to those incentive program positions, they're for certain areas in the province, and oftentimes they're places that need family practice. So you're kind of committing to that area or that zone for X amount of, I think it's 5 years.
Yeah, it's 2.5 years for every year of service, but they want you to be doing it in full as a full-time student.
Yeah. So that's something to think about, because they do pay your salary. You're just responsible for your tuition at that point. So it makes it a bit more affordable for people that are interested in the nurse practitioner program.
Yes, and I feel bad. Is there anybody who's on here that's interested in research? Because we're going to speak probably very, very much to the nurse practitioner stream. Is there anybody who's interested in the thesis stream?
I can definitely speak to that if anyone is. So awesome. Okay, great, Ellie. That's great. Awesome. And you're pediatric nursing currently at IWK. Is that right? I think so. Yeah. Awesome. Oh, awesome. Great. Yeah, so I can kind of jump in whenever and just share a little bit about more so the research stream side of things. But kind of just going back on what Jamelyn shared at the beginning of this slide, in terms of the application and especially that supplemental application, she said it really well. The more that, personality and the more that they know about you really does help them make the decision to be able to welcome you into the graduate nursing programs here and then be able to support you in your learning as you move on. It's a pretty small community, really. I know the NP stream, there's kind of many more students. But whenever I first started my first year of the Master's of Science in Nursing, there was just 4 of us. that were doing full-time research stream, and that was a really, really interesting experience, and it was so fantastic to be able to have the support of those 3 other colleagues, and we kind of went through all the experiences together. But you do get really connected with the faculty and with the School of Nursing community too in that first year especially. So yeah, I'll just kind of say that little piece, and I just see that Lane as well too. So Lane,
Question for you, Brianna.
awesome.
I think that's a question, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. So to my knowledge, and forgive me, I should have refreshed on this before today's session. But for the Masters of Science in Nursing program, to my knowledge, this is still the case, is that they match you to a faculty member based on area of interest. So it's different if you were pursuing a PhD or doctoral route in graduate studies. Generally with that, you would have like your project almost envisioned, and you'd connect with the supervisor beforehand to make sure that it was a good fit and that they could take you on. But in terms of the Masters of Science in Nursing, it typically has been that they'll match you with a faculty member. And for the most part, that's been very successful too. I think one thing that's great, if you Lane, just kind of building on your interests again, so public health, community health, if you take a look through the current faculty at Dalhousie to kind of see who's doing work that you might be interested in, when you have that interview with Dalhousie, if you do apply and have that interview, then certainly weave that into the interview as well. Say, I'm really interested in the work that X or so-and-so is doing, and that can always help, because I believe they asked me in my interview as well too, if there was anybody or any specific kind of areas of interest that I'd really like to broaden my understanding and my experience in research in. Awesome, great. You're welcome, Lane.
And I just shared Chelsea, who her email, her contact, who was supposed to make it today, couldn't end up making it, but she is on the DGNS committee with us, and she's totally open to any questions that you might have. So please feel free to reach out. And on that as well, Chelsea also identifies as African Nova Scotian, and Dalhousie is making affirmative action to promote applications from underrepresented populations. So she also offered her email to reach out if you have any questions surrounding application as an underrepresented population. And also, make sure you're reaching out to the main registrar's office if you are self-identifying on your application, and the graduate nursing office as well.
Yeah, that's great to include. I know just from kind of working with Dalhousie graduate nursing community and in a lot of their different committees, they are really, really emphasizing and wanting to enhance accessibility and opportunity to groups that have been typically more equity seeking. So this is, it's if you're interested and do want to self-identify, certainly reach out to these 2 emails here, and then as well Chelsea offered support too, which is fantastic.
Can I ask a question? I don't know if you can hear me. Hi, my name is Ashley. I didn't introduce myself because I was just getting set up, but there were some rumors going around, like anecdotally, about statistics, like certain classes that you would need to take to get into these, and that the statistics credit is only good for 2 years. And I was wondering, is that even an issue with these graduate programs, or it isn't?
So I'm going to jump right in here, because this is changing from my understanding. As of May, when I applied, the expectation was that you had statistics and research, an undergrad research course, within 5 years of application. I was 6 years from from graduating. And so that was my understanding that I would have to redo stats and research. I wasn't accepted until like early August, very, very late acceptance. But this is, I believe, something that's going to change for incoming cohorts. That just as long as you have the stats and research as part of your undergraduate studies, that's no longer going to be a requirement. That is not official, but that is my personal experience with the program right now. It also, it depends on the graduate coordinator who is new into the position this year, and their correspondence and their correspondence with like the main registrar's office. But that, I believe, is going to be the new expectation, that just as long as it's part of your undergraduate studies, there's no kind of limit.
I've never heard of a 2-year. It's always been 5 to my knowledge. And I didn't take stats during my undergrad, so I had to take it as like when I was out nursing, I took it on my own. So, but I've not heard of the 2-year rule. Yeah, so Lindsay's saying in the chat there that she received an email from the graduate studies office, who has also said the stats and research time limits are being done away with. So
yeah,
good. Does that answer your question? I see a smiley face.
It did, yeah. Thank you, because I was just concerned that would be something I'd have to look into while working the 2 years full time and trying to add that in. But that's great. Thank you so much.
I had to add it in and it wasn't fun. So
yeah.
For most people, I don't know, but statistics, for me at least, that's not fun. And so adding that onto already demanding schedule, it's well, good news to hear that it's that requirement's going away with.
And I do just want to comment on, go back here, the 2 years full-time clinical experience. I've heard this would be something that might be unique to your application. I was not asked to provide proof of these clinical hours, but some of my colleagues have been asked to provide proof of these clinical hours. I'm not sure, Brianna or Maggie, what your experience has been. So something just to be mindful of during your application, because I know that like records of employment and can be a little bit lengthy to have released to you. So what are you guys?
I wasn't asked for Dow when I had applied to MUN a year before. I had to provide a letter from my employer stating I had worked for X amount of hours.
Okay.
But I didn't with Dow.
And
something to keep in mind, but it's really easy. You just go to your HR or whoever you work for and they'll write you a letter that says you worked so many hours. So it really wasn't a big deal, but just to keep that in mind, you may have to do that.
And just to kind of note on that, so with my kind of path to graduate studies, as I took the Master of Science in Nursing, you don't actually require that 2 years of clinical. So I actually graduated from my BSCN in 2016 in May, and then started graduate studies that same fall in 2016. Which maybe was a little silly, but it was good. A lot of learning in that transition. So for myself, I didn't have to supply any clinical hours because it's less of a requirement when you're going that more research stream.
Yeah, I think it's just for the Master of Nursing streams that they require those 2 years.
Yeah.
Whether it's NP or professional, I think they both require clinical experience.
That's
but
what
not for the Master of Science program.
Yeah. When I was looking at the site, part of one of the tasks that we're taking on as DGNS is reviewing the student handbooks. So there's some discrepancies from what's on the website currently and what's in the handbook. So we hope to have an updated handbook for you by the end of the year.
They'll have all the kinks smoothed out if anybody's interested in applying and gets accepted to Dalhousie on this call.
All right. Do you want me to speak a bit to the coping, Jamelyn? Then you can pop in.
Yep.
Yeah. So I personally found my coping as a grad student far different than an undergraduate. and even as an RN. And I think a lot of times, unfortunately, as nurses, we don't practice very good self-care. I don't think I'm alone in that. I think that goes for a lot of nurses. But it's something that I've really tried to focus on a lot during my graduate studies, and trying to balance my work, my school life, my work life, and my home personal or social life as well. It definitely took some time. In my first semester, it took me a good couple months to really get settled into the groove of things, but the self-care part is so important. I was one of probably a few students who did continue to work all throughout my program. I've been working 1 to 2 shifts a week since the beginning, except for COVID complicated some things. I work in long-term care and I wasn't allowed to be in clinical and working at the same time. So that kind of complicated things a bit. But it's definitely that balance is really, really important, and taking time for yourself away from school. But again, not something we're good at, and certainly was a learning curve for me. But it's really easy to get burnt out, especially I think the pandemic, and you guys are undergraduate students during a pandemic can certainly attest to that as well. But yeah, anything you want to add there, Jamelyn or Brianna?
I just to reiterate how important it is. I think as I kind of just briefly alluded to, that transition for me into graduate studies, even though I was coming right off of being in school and kind of already still being in that mindset, it was in terms of, it was very different from undergraduate where like Bachelor of Nursing, Bachelor of Science in Nursing, where it's much more focused in, clinical experiences and kind of being, although I had an interest in research and I knew, I wanted to be master's prepared and kind of go along that route. I wasn't so ready for everything that kind of the research demands and kind of everything involved in that world. So I found that was a really tough transition, and there was a lot of nights working, pretty intensely into the wee hours of the night, trying to make sure that I was juggling between all the papers that were due and getting involved in different kind of more research oriented things, like submitting an abstract to conferences and working on extra projects. And I think having this conversation early and having everyone who's here getting to have this discussion is really nice to just put that balance front of mind and try as best as possible to make sure that you do have a good, ability to do your work, but then leave it as well and make sure that you enjoy some personal and social time, because that's really, otherwise, what's life about, I guess, really.
The first couple months are certainly challenging, and I know I complicated things extra. I got divorced, sold a house, bought a house, started grad school, and started a new relationship all within 3 months. So that self-care piece is so important, and I think is something I've not been good at the rest of my life, but I've really taken the time to do it now going forward. So as a grad student and in an NP practice going forward.
You said it all. Yeah, it's definitely, I'm just getting through my first semester, and I just feel like I'm getting my feet under me. I think a big thing for me, I did a lot of night shifts during the semester, which kind of take away from being able to establish a routine. And I think that routine makes it easier to do self-care because it becomes a habit. So I think that moving forward, that's something that I will change. I will maybe do more day shifts so that I can, keep a sleep schedule, do, your little morning yoga session before taking off for the day, rather than always trying to flip back and forth. So that would be my recommendation. As far as like study balance goes, I've had great experiences I had good experiences in my undergrad with profs, but they want to support you. They want you to succeed in grad studies. It is a very different mindset than undergrad studies. You're given a lot of the information and asked to like memorize it in undergraduate studies, whereas in grad studies you think about it a little bit more critically. So you can't always just sit down for 6 hours and do a bunch of work. Like you have to take breaks from that. That's something that I'm finding. Whereas, you know, before you might be able to go do a 6-hour study session. Well, you might not be able to do that on a philosophy paper. You actually need to come away from it because your brain's gonna explode. So those would be my takeaways from my first semester. So we'll open it up, I think.
I have another question about if you're going the NP direction, how do you know, how is it coordinated, like based on what area of interest you want to be an NP in?
Yeah, so Dal, and I can only really speak to Dal. I think there's other universities that have other programs as well, but Dal has 3 streams, but they don't always offer the 3 streams.
This year, they're just doing 2. My cohort is just the 2 right now.
And mine was the same. So they do, if there's enough interest, have three streams, which would be the neonatal, the adult, and the family all ages. The family all ages stream is the stream that is probably the most popular, and it's the stream that prepares you for practice in primary care. However, you can then kind of do some specializations as well. So there's NPs working in primary care, long-term care, and specialty clinics such as heart health clinics, traumatic brain injury clinics, seizure clinics,
orthopedic.
They're orthopedic. They're now actually working in acute care. I saw some job postings for some NP jobs on the surgery floor in Sydney.
Emergency, rural
emergency rooms, but most of the time it would be that family all ages stream. That would be kind of the most popular stream. I think the second most popular right now. Are they offering adult, Jamelyn? Is that the other one they're offering?
Yes.
Yeah. They have offered neonatal in the past, and I think they will going forward when there's enough interest. But yeah, so you kind of apply to a stream, and then you can kind of specialize going from there.
If anyone is interested in the neonatal stream, I do have a contact who's gone through it, and that they're currently practicing at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital here. So I'd be happy to reach out and see if they'd like to chat and give you a little bit more information. Otherwise, my supervisor at Dalhousie as well she's a neonatal nurse practitioner at the IWK, and she does a lot of work with that stream of the program. That's Dr. Marsha Campbell-Yo. And she's always very supportive of students and would love to speak with anybody as well too, if you're interested in that.
Yeah, there are several neonatal nurse practitioners working at WK.
Yeah, it's awesome to see that.
It's not offered in a couple of years, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
No, I think my year in master's 2016 might have been the last time. I think it was.
Right. Yeah. But they do plan to offer going forward. So if that is what you're interested in, then don't not apply because of that. They just have to have enough numbers to make it possible. That's all. Yeah.
They were saying that in class this semester. They're really trying to get it up again for next fall. And so just to speak to clinical hours, I guess. So for my cohort this year, they did change it a little bit from last year. So we do a 50-hour clinical in our first semester. Next semester, we will do 125-hour clinical. And then your third and final clinical is usually 400 clinical hours.
So do you not do 4 clinical placements now, Jamelyn?
No, they just have us doing 3.
Oh. So we did 3 100-hour clinicals followed by a 400-hour clinical at the end, which is what I'll be going into in January.
Right. And we're just a year apart.
Interesting. Okay. Any other questions or anything we can answer or try to answer?
I have a question. I don't know if you folks would be able to answer it, but I'm going to try anyway. So there are 4 courses that are similar between the NP masters and the MN in leadership.
Yeah.
Like 50-50 is one of them and a couple others. Do you know if it's possible to take those courses as like a special graduate student and then apply for the NP once we have our clinical hours?
That's a great question, Lindsay. Maggie, Jamelin, do you know?
I don't know for sure. No, I can't say. I can't say for sure.
I think they do have the special student status that you can apply for. I do know that kind of through Faculty of Graduate Studies, and then it goes through to the School of Nursing and the graduate coordinator. So I think that would be possible. I don't have any personal experience or know of anyone who's done it, at least to my knowledge in kind of my era at Dalhousie. But I would say, Lindsay, if you are interested in that, it is a great way to kind of jump on the courses that don't necessarily need that clinical requirement or may not need that clinical requirement while you're still getting your hours. So definitely reach out. I can share the graduate nursing program email in the chat in just 1 second, so that it's worth it to send an email to them and just have that conversation and see if that's possible. And if so, kind of what's the channel to go about doing that? Any chance you can reduce your future course load if you're planning to take it is always great.
Absolutely, that's a great idea. Yeah. And it is like you would.
Yeah, and then it'll take you a little longer to get your clinical hours, but then you can be a bit more leisurely. I think anyway. Maybe not.
Yeah. And I think like the common ones are the philosophy, the policy, health policy, whatever it's called. The research one we do there at the end of first year, and there's one more that's in a common. You're right, there is at least 3, but there might even be a 4th one. So great idea. Any other questions? Oh, Jamelin looks like she has something to say.
Oh, I remember reading something about it deep in the handbook, actually. And I was just trying to find it quick here now, but I can't find it, sorry.
I was wondering, what kind of supports do they have? Like, are you matched with anyone, like an academic advisor or some kind of like resource that you can, ask questions in real time to when you're going through a program like this?
That'd be like DGNS, I guess you could say. There's like the student reps that we can connect with.
DGNS has offered, I think Brianna can probably speak a bit more to it, but has offered some mentoring programs in the past where like new and incoming students are paired up with the dog hair flying into her hair, are paired up with a upper level graduate student. It hasn't really taken off the last couple of years, but if you always can reach out to DGNS and they can certainly find someone to pair you up with in terms of that. Any other suggestions, Brianna?
Yeah, that's a great one, because I know sometimes this experience can be a little intimidating too, so it's really nice to have that peer-to-peer support. So while we did used to offer that peer mentorship program, even just reaching out to DGNS, to the society, kind of once you're involved or included, or if you're interested at this point. And they'll certainly match you with someone who maybe where like interests align, whether it's clinical interests or research interests, and to have gone through a similar similar path, just to be able to give that insight and that guidance. I know I was really lucky to have a lot of support from people who were in upper years. I had a great team through my research lab, and that really made the whole transition and the whole experience that much easier. And then so for the Masters of Science in Nursing program, you do have your supervisor, which you do work really closely as well. So that is kind of a more formalized academic support that you have. And Maggie and Jamelin, is it, as for the NP stream, do you get connected still with a faculty advisor to kind of support you, or?
No.
Oh shoot. Okay. I thought that was supposed to happen, but
I think there's too many of us now. I think we've far outnumbered the faculty.
Probably.
Yeah, because I think there's like 30 and 40 per class now, which is a lot higher than it used to be.
Yeah.
I just found out from a colleague that they're trying to get a January stream going. So
Gonna be
there's
more.
going to be a lot of
Yeah.
numbers. Yeah.
There's a need. There's a huge need. So really excited that all of you who've joined us today are interested. Because I think as there's going to be more intake probably for these programs and hopefully more supports as well too, in terms of maybe scholarship or the incentive program, kind of all that as Maggie and Jamelyn spoke to earlier. But yeah, I think, I don't know what your experience, as Jamelyn kind of mentioned too, the faculty in graduate studies really do want you to succeed and help really grow, give you that space, support, and opportunity to be able to grow in this program. So I'd say, you can reach out to any faculty member or one who you feel close with as well too, and they'd be more than happy to provide any sort of guidance and mentorship that they can within reason. So if you're kind of looking for that more formalized support, but otherwise, yeah, definitely be nice and connected with your graduate society, and there's lots of peer support offered, or that is available, or that could be available.
Any other questions you can answer or try to answer or work on finding an answer for you?
I just had a quick one. I don't know if it might be too broad, but as far as like public or like community health, is there a specific or a certain stream that would be more ideal for that? Like, would it be more the Master of Science or like more of the Masters in Nursing? I'm just trying to figure out how, if NP would really weave into public health or like community health.
Lane, I have a question. Do you see yourself in a more clinical setting, like providing direct patient care, or do you see yourself more in like a policy development role?
Probably like policy and program development.
Okay. My recommendation, and I might have a contact that may be open to taking questions from you. I actually asked if he could attend this session, but he was doing another education session. He's doing the professional stream. And my initial reaction would be to say the professional stream, but I'll reach out to him to see if he's open to taking any questions. But that would be my thought, and I don't know if you want to comment on that, Maggie or Brianna.
I would say the professional stream as well. I don't know, Brianna may have a different.
No, I think professional stream is very well suited for that. And I think the nice thing with nursing too is, if you were to go the NP route, you could really also get, work clinically, but you could really get engaged, certainly in community health or through primary care, and get engaged in policy development and kind of more so at that level, as well with the research stream as kind of, if you wanted to go that route. But if the professional stream, that seems to fit well. And I think there's always kind of postgraduate, there's always opportunity to get involved in research, if that's also what you're interested in growing once you're practicing in the real world. People, especially kind of research as it's going now in nursing and health, really rely on having those community partnerships and having that engagement with nursing leaders and management in order to be able to make any sort of effective change or gain new knowledge in research. So I think you might have a few different paths that you can go, but I just recommend kind of looking through reading a little bit more about each of the programs and really considering, who you are and what you would like to do and how it would align with your own life and goals well, and kind of make the decision from there.
And I don't think that any of the streams would be the wrong stream for something like that either. So I think, or for me anyway, it would be important if I was looking at that to consider what my job prospects at the end are, or what my job at the end looks like. Do I want to be, obviously in the NP stream, you probably have a very good chance of getting some kind of job, and then you can collaborate and do other work with public health. Whereas the more thesis stream, you're probably looking at a lot more of the teaching type stream as a where you're headed. So I think kind of looking at the end as well, and your job prospects at the end are important as well, because you're going to put a lot of time and money into it, that you want to make sure that you have something suitable for yourself at the end too.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the because I want to work clinically in the community, but I like also want to have be involved in that program and kind of policy development as well. So I'm just trying to figure out kind of which stream would be most ideal.
Yeah, and I agree. I think you can't really go wrong between the the NP or the professional stream, and they keep telling us that, you know, no matter where you take the degree, where you take the master's programs, like nurse practitioners are involved in policy development, and you know, and not always in a clinical practice. So
Brianna, there's a question there from Ellie. Do you want to speak to that? And then perhaps we can also speak to Katie's question afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so Ellie asked about keeping full-time work with the studies for the Master's in Science and Nursing program. So this is, as I mentioned, I was a quick turnaround from graduating my BSCN into entering the MSCN program. My hope was to get a position on the Family Newborn Care Unit at the IWK and be able to, just in a casual capacity, and just be able to balance that in terms of the juggling that at the same time with the Master's of Science and Nursing program. But I kind of put the school cart before the workhorse, I guess we'll say. Once I got going in the program, and I did get engaged in a lot of different research opportunities in that definitely first semester and first year. I did find that I wasn't really able to carve some time away to be able to dedicate to be able to get that 6-week or however long orientation, full-time orientation onto the unit at the same time as balancing my schoolwork. But I think, Ellie, in your case as well too, where you're already a practicing nurse at the IWK, I think this could definitely look a little different. I know there are quite a few people who have gone through the MSCN program full-time and have kept work going at the same time. I think mostly it's been at a casual capacity, and that just, again, it just allows for a little bit more flexibility in terms of, or control with your own schedule. So it depends on kind of your unit or your manager. Maybe you could negotiate so ever many hours of work per week, and then load up extra on, after semesters have finished and in between those breaks. But I'd say it can be a different experience, and again, goes back to just being able to balance in terms of your work and your school life and personal life too. But that was my experience. I through the master's program. So I was only in that program for about a year, and then I transitioned to the PhD program the following year. And then through that, I was involved in different research projects. I had, I think, done about 4 teaching assistantships. So I'd be a TA, a teaching assistant, at the same time as juggling my courses and whatever other workload I had for my own graduate program. And then I also did take on sessional instructing positions at UPEI while balancing. So while it's not clinical work, I was able to balance some other positions as well too, with continuing on in the program, kind of both in the master's and the doctoral stream. So it's possible, but it just depends on how much fun you want to have, I guess. Awesome. Oh, I just see, okay, great, Ellie, awesome. I just see Megan's comment. Thanks so much for coming. It's wonderful. Megan, you know how to reach out to me too if you need more information.
So Katie's question was it difficult getting into the program? So I'll speak to kind of my experience. It might be different from the others, but I had applied to Memorial in Newfoundland once, if not twice, and didn't get in based on the fact they really weren't accepting applicants outside of Newfoundland for the NP program at the time, just because of the need of NPs in Newfoundland. So I was kind of at a toss-up, wasn't really sure what I was going to do. Was looking at applying at Athabasca and decided to just kind of give DAL a shot. And I did. I applied to DAL. My undergrad marks were okay, but they weren't spectacular by any means. But they were certainly okay. But it's not, if you're worried about your marks, certainly don't worry about the marks. It's more than just the marks. It comes down to your experience, what your goals are. And I think having some volunteer, some kind of volunteer experience also comes important on your applications as well. So I got into DAL on my first try after one or two unsuccessful attempts at Memorial. But yeah, and just a little hint, if you do apply to the incentive programs, so the incentive programs are first offered to people who are currently accepted or in the program, and then they're offered to others as well. But I have several friends who applied to the incentive program before they were actually accepted to DAL, and got into DAL quite easily once they already had their funding in place. So that's something to kind of keep in mind as well. But certainly no, it's not all about the academics. So if you're worried about that, that's not the most important part. It certainly plays a key, but it's not the most important. Other factors that come together. Anyone else have any other input?
My experiences, it was kind of based on the amount of applicants they were accepting for my year, because they jumped from about 20 a cohort to all of a sudden like almost 45 from last year to this year. So I was like unofficially waitlisted back in May. They didn't really decline me. They didn't accept me. They just said, we can't accept you at this time. We'll keep your application on file for 12 months. And then I found out in August that I got accepted. So I think now that they've increased the seats, it's obviously going to be a little bit easier to get in. But that's very interesting that you say that about the incentive program, Maggie, and applicants that way. So yeah, I applied, but they're kind of slowly releasing, like, I think 2018 was the first year that they offered it, and there were like 5 regions that they were primarily trying to resource. And so then since then, as they've filled some positions, they've just slowly been releasing 1 or 2 regions across Nova Scotia where there's still need, and they were able to kind of come up with another position in the communities. So yeah, I mean, again, like I had numerous emails exchanged with the grad coordinator. And that's something that if you are interested in applying, like just don't hesitate to reach out. Yeah, lots of emails back and forth with the grad nursing office, I guess is who it was. And then towards August, as I was trying to figure out kind of stats and research, it was the grad coordinator, but yeah.
In terms of my experience, excuse me, I kind of similar, I guess. I read back, this was a while ago now, but I did reflect back on my application, and that, especially that supplementary application piece where you write about your short and long-term goals. And I think there was a lot of growth once I got accepted into the program. I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe they let me in, but hopefully that's a credit to, you know, they take all things into consideration. I had an interview with the graduate coordinator, which was excellent to be able to have that one-on-one as to kind of supplement the written application as well. And in terms of my marks, like I was not a scholar by any means in an undergraduate program either. So I think I was on the dean's list once near the end of my my undergraduate experience, and I was really pleased with that. But it's not all grades, especially in we know that kind of being in nursing and in the wherever you're at undergraduate program, or where if you're clinically working or working in whatever capacity, it's much more than that. So being connected with the graduate nursing office, and if this is something you want to pursue, just going for it is really, I think, maybe the best advice I can offer, because you never know what'll happen in terms of numbers of applicants and kind of what's needed at that moment. So yeah, definitely encourage you, Katie, if you're interested in going for it. And so I see we're right on 2:00. I did just see Lindsay's question there. And if you have to go, thank you so much for joining us. I might just speak to this last question before we sign off. So Lindsay had asked if I felt restricted in my teaching because of my limited clinical experience. And this is a great question, really, really good question. I think I did. In a way, I really leaned on my clinical experiences throughout my undergraduate nursing. And I'm a little bit, if anyone wants to reach out and hear my story, feel free to email, because I took the scenic route in terms of my undergraduate experience, where I did have some experience at Memorial University, and then I transferred to the University of Prince Edward Island to complete my undergraduate degree. And so I got a lot of clinical experience. So I really leaned on those experiences heavily. But I also found a way around it. Really, I think it is hard because students in the undergraduate program really highly value learning from clinical experiences and through stories. Whereas my stories were more focused in research and focused in, more of that philosophical or theoretical and how that is related to clinical. But it's a process that I think I'll always work on. And then I did just last year start having some clinical experience by working at our local hospital here in the perinatal or the family newborn care unit capacity too. So that has helped. That has definitely been helpful to be able to broaden my perspective and what I can share with students. But really great question. Awesome. Okay, just catching up on that. So I'll hand it off to Maggie and Jamelin to end us. But
so I just left my email there in the chat. I'd be happy if anyone has any further questions or more specific questions. I'd be happy to answer them or point you in a direction of someone who can answer them. But yeah, good luck with your studies, and thank you for joining us, and good luck with whatever you decide to do.
wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. This was great.
Guys.
Awesome. Glad it was helpful.
All right. Take care, guys. Enjoy the rest of this crappy day.
Yes, you too. Good luck with the last semester, or well, almost last semester for you, Maggie, I guess, but with this semester, and Jamelin with your night shift coming up, night shifts. Thanks, Megan. Thanks, Lindsay. This is great. Awesome. I'm going to stop recording actually.